And we are live in the basement. Welcome back to the content.
Sounds creepy. We're live in the basement.
Yes, we are. Welcome back to the Content Swap Podcast, the podcast where we discuss two new pieces of content every single week that we assign to each other at the end of the episode, and bring along some fun facts. We should probably standardize our opening. It's the same every time. And be sure to like and subscribe. You are joined by Parker and
Aaliyah.
So, yeah, we're here to talk about two new pieces of content. But before we do, what is going on?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Everything and nothing at the same time, I guess. I had this week off before I start my internship. So it's been a lot of reading, a lot of playing games, just doing all the stuff I never really have time for, or an extended amount of time for.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little sad that now I'm gonna be busy again, because it's been fun to just sit down and relax, not have my brain focused on 50 million things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been fun. So I've been playing a lot of Disney Dreamlight Valley, really enjoying it. I read a book called Ramon and Julieta, which was really good. I read some other stuff. I've been flying through the books, so I can't even...
Yeah, you've been reading a lot of books and writing a lot of posts reviewing those books.
Yeah.
What?
Follow me at the Cozy Constellation on Instagram.
Yeah. What book were you reading last before Ramon and Julieta?
That's what I don't remember. Oh, I read The Mostly True Story of Tanner and Louise.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you talk about how you felt about that?
I don't know if I did. I thought it was cute. I think I mentioned that I started it last episode.
Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah, really flying through these things.
Yeah, I know. I'm in the middle of a book now too.
It's every week there's a new book.
Yeah. It was cute. It's not the best book. It's a good summer read. But yeah, it was enjoyable.
Okay. And then Ramon and Julieta, what would you give that?
I rated that pretty high. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5. Rom-coms never rank over a 4. 4 is I loved that.
4 is the max a rom-com could possibly be?
Because it's a rom-com.
Yeah.
You know, it's they're not... I don't read rom-coms for peak literature, peak writing. It's I read it because I want something fun and easy to read that's really cute. So yeah, that's that's why I never give rom-coms over a 4. But a 4 means that it was spectacular in my opinion.
Yeah, with how many rom-coms you read, maybe you should write your own.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
No.
We'll leave it at that.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other? What's this Disney Dreamlight Valley? Do you want to explain what that is to those that might not know?
Yeah. How do you explain it? So it's basically I don't know if there's a proper term for this, but a task-oriented game where you're
It's a video game?
Well, I mean, I guess all video games you have a task, but
Oh, no, so I'm asking, is it a video game?
Yeah. I thought you were being that's every game.
I know it's a video game. I'm just you say it's a task-oriented game, and then the listener might not know that you're talking about a video game. So.
Yeah, it's a video game. It's very task-oriented. So, you're basically in this world. It's called Valley. And there's
the world is called Valley?
Yeah, where you are, the location of where you are is called the Valley.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they'll assign you tasks and be oh, you need to bring Wally to the Valley, and yeah, I don't know if that's a Californian thing,
what, the San Fernando Valley?
I don't know. But basically, there's some sort of dark magic that's made everyone kind of disappear, go into these different realms, and a lot of them have forgotten about the valley, or they've forgotten life, I guess. Their memories are just really, what's the word I'm looking for?
They've lost their Disney magic,
I guess. Yeah. And so it's up to you, because you have such strong magic, to bring everybody back, to fix this dark magic, to figure out what's behind it. And so along the way you have tons of tasks, but it's also you can kind of customize the place, like the location. So you can like customize your house. You can like move people's houses around. You choose where you want people to live. Like you choose what it looks like. You can add furniture everywhere. So it's kind of reminds me of like a Disney version of Animal Crossing, but like with more stuff to do. Huh. And like more like an actual plot. I feel like.
Yeah, no, I mean, Animal Crossing does not have a plot,
Yeah,
so...
Yeah, it's like a more fun... Because that's the thing for me with Animal Crossing is like... I like the idea of customization, but I never even got to a point where I could make it my like place really nice because I was so bored. I was like, all there is to do is fish, go visit other people. I don't know. I just like found it really boring. So.
It sounds like, in this case, Animal Crossing is very focused on you and like your house, what you build up, and you can also, I guess, like enhance the community and make relationships with people. Yeah. But this seems a little bit more focused on like improving other people's homes or like doing other people favors rather than doing your own tasks of like, oh, I'm gonna rearrange my furniture today, or I'm gonna go fishing today so I can sell it so that I can buy more stuff. For me, it's more like somebody has asked me to go do this thing, and now I'm going to go do it for them. It's going to improve their stuff and the value overall.
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
I think it has every aspect of Animal Crossing that you're talking about, but more.
Can you customize your own house?
Yeah, you can customize your own house. You can buy clothes for yourself.
Can you expand your own house?
Yeah, you can expand your house. Like you can add different skins so that your house looks different. So you can still do all those like very like customizable things for yourself. Like I have purchased like clothes with like by fishing and selling fish, and then I get money, and then I can upgrade my house.
You can go fishing in this game?
You can go fishing and you can sell the fish.
Can you grow your own trees?
Yeah.
What?
You can grow plants. You can
wow, you can do everything in this game.
You have to grow crops in order to be able to make food, because you need like food gives you energy, because you run out of by like mining and fishing and things like that, you run out of energy, and so then you have to eat food.
You can go mining. There's energy, food.
Yeah.
What?
It's fantastic.
There's everything going on in this.
Everything.
This is like a combination of everything, and then just slap Disney on top of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's fantastic.
And that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Wow. I thought you were just running around talking to people.
Oh my gosh, no.
Doing fetch quests all day, and that was it.
No, there's so much you can do.
Oh wow.
Like I am not a person who sits down for hours playing a game. I literally was playing this game 24 hours yesterday. Like I did not stop until my Switch died, and I was like, okay, that's been enough screens for today. And that was at like midnight.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much to do, and it's like it's not overwhelming. It's not intimidating. Like I'm not running around like I don't know what I'm doing. Like it's easy for me to figure it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
But can you pick up objects and stick them together and make vehicles?
It's not Zelda. No, you cannot. I can pick up objects and stick them in my backpack.
Is there a physics system in there at all? Or is it just like you are attached to the ground and that's about it?
Nah, yeah, you can't like jump or anything like that. Like you can't, you only run or like walk places. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Can you get in a boat? Can you get a car?
So you can get on Moana's boat. At one
point,
you
can get Moana's boat?
Hold on.
Wow.
Hold the phone. No. There's one point where Moana's like, hey, come with me on my boat. I need to find something. And this is like how you're trying to get her to come back to the valley.
Yeah.
But it kind of like, it cuts to you just like on the boat already. So you can't like physically get on her boat. It's like cut scene, like now you're on the boat. And she's like, okay, do this. And it's like cut scene, now you've done that. Like, and then, yeah.
7.7, not enough boat.
That's okay. I do not want to be on that boat. I do not want to be sailing. That's another thing I'd have to do then. But okay. It's cool. Moana catches fish for you, which is nice. Like,
well, there's a lot going on in this game. I did not know. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only heard good things about this game. Like everybody that's mentioned it, even like podcasts that I listen to where like, you know, these guys are talking about like what's the newest game right now, and they'll talk about Zelda, or they'll talk about, you know, whatever, you know, big thing is out, and they're like, yeah, Disney Dreamlight Valley, man, it's like, it's so good, and they're like, my kids love it. That is like their big thing right now, and I'm really impressed by it. But wow, okay, I
feel like I'm gonna be playing this for forever because there's just so much I still haven't gotten to.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many characters I have yet to meet. And so I'm like, I'll probably be playing this for till the end of the year.
Till the end of the year?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's so much.
I mean, because like this week was like I could dedicate a whole day to playing it.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm back to work, so it's like I only have a few hours in the day to play.
When did you start?
I downloaded it when we first got here, so Monday.
Okay. So so the beginning of this week, and how many hours do you guess you've played it?
Probably a lot. It's got to be well over 20.
Okay. Yeah, because I got Zelda right before we got here a week ago, like 8-9 days ago.
Yeah.
I would definitely say I've played Zelda at least 20 hours.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said yesterday, we played games all day.
Yeah, that was all we did yesterday was play games.
I was like starting to feel sick because we were also in this movie theater, and there's no, like, obviously there's
not
no
a lot
windows.
of ventilation in here.
It's real dark. Yeah, and I was just like, I'm going to throw up. We've had no sunlight today.
Yeah, we really got to go outside.
And I'm very much an outdoors person. Like, I love to sit outside. And so I was like, I cannot do that again.
Yeah, that was a lot. I mean, I enjoyed it. I was very immersed in Zelda yesterday, but I think it would have been smart for us to like take a step outside, sit on the back patio.
Sure. Even being in here today, even though we haven't been in here that long, I'm like, I cannot wait to leave this room.
Yeah, once we're done with this, probably won't come back into this room the rest of the day.
I'm like, we've been here we like
went
hard in the movie room.
I know, we've been living in this room. I mean, we were so excited for this.
We were, and now I'm like, I don't want to be in here for like 3 days.
Yeah,
I need a break.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah. What's new with you?
I've been playing a lot of Zelda.
Yeah.
This new Zelda game is great. I'm sure if the listener is interested in Zelda, they have already started playing it for themselves, and they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's an incredibly well-made game. It's like they took the last game and they just built more on the foundations of like a perfect project already, and they said, how can we make this even better? And it's like very rare that something like that ever gets to happen. But I mean, they spent 6 years working on this game, and once you pick up on what the actual differences are, it's like, yeah, I could see why this took them so long to make, because it
looks really cool. Like, it looks a lot different than Breath of the Wild did.
Yeah, it's incredibly complex. Like I said, like you can pick up pretty much any object in this game and stick them together to make whatever you want. And you get these different types of devices that each of these devices kind of serve individual functions. So like a wheel, for example, or a fan, or a balloon, or like a thing that shoots fire. And you can implement those in like by combining them with different objects. Like you can get like a flat square panel, put your balloon on top of it, and then put the thing that shoots fire inside the balloon and have the fire shoot up into the balloon. And now you've got a hot air balloon, and you can just like go up high up into the sky with just those 3 things. But like the sky is the limit, literally, because there's stuff in the sky and there's just so much to find. Also, there's like a whole underground section, which is covers essentially the whole entire map. And it's really exciting because every time I found something in the underground area, it's been something really cool. So I like want to go spend more time in the underground area, but it's all really dark. So it's not like the surface or the sky where you can look in the distance and see and kind of know what to expect. The underground area is like pitch black. You have to throw or shoot like in an arrow these little light seeds in order to see stuff. And in order to you can find these things that light up like a decent circular radius. But the thing about those that I found out this like a couple days ago was that each of those things that you can find that lights up an area is actually an underground version, like where the shrines are, because there are shrines all over the map, and you find them and you get these like objects that help you like upgrade your hearts or your stamina so you can do more exploring and get more brave about where you're going and all that. And as you find each of these shrines, you can also they also become like fast travel points on the map so that you can travel to them. So like you're always trying to find shrines everywhere you go when you're on the surface, and some of them are even in the sky. But then when you're in the underground sections, the where the shrines are on the surface are where the like little light things are underground. So now knowing that, it's like, oh, like you could play through Breath of the Wild, not get every shrine, and still have like a good time. I decided to go for every single shrine because this game's massive. I want to complete it because it's great. Now it's like I was already planning on doing that, but knowing that every shrine that I find on the surface, there's also like a piece of the underground that's going to be lit up if I go to that same spot underground, is like, oh, if I want to see the entire underground, I legitimately have to find all of the shrines. So I really like that. I like how that's designed because then it encourages people who like there's always something more to find. Like in Breath of the Wild, you could not find all the shrines and still feel like you found all the shrines. Now it's straight up like, you have not found all of them because like that part of the map is still dark. So go over there, see what you can find, and you might find something really cool and interesting. And there's a ton of different new enemy types. It's just that it's great. It's great. I really like problem solved my way through a lot of things that I'm like, is this the right way to do this? Probably not, but with the system and the rules that have been given to me, I figured out something that worked. And that is extremely rewarding because it makes you feel like everything you do, you may have been the only person that had that solution. And then other times it's like an obvious solution, but you still feel like smart. Yeah, it's extremely well made. I mean, like, yeah.
I mean, was anybody surprised about that?
No. I don't think anybody was surprised about that. I don't. Yeah. I mean, if Nintendo's putting out a new Zelda game, then that means they've found some way to innovate, and they innovated their butts off, I would say. So, I don't know. I honestly am like, I don't know how they could possibly make another Zelda game after this. I don't know what it would even be. I'm not expecting another Zelda game. I mean, it's been 6 years since the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 10 years before we got another one. Like, it's just there's just so much going on in this one. It's like, yeah, there's how do you top this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 10 years. I feel it's on the record now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have like FOMO because everyone on like my Instagram, that like all the cozy gamers I follow, they're all playing it, and people got their new like Zelda Switch, and I'm like, I've barely touched Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I wish I was like as excited as everyone else.
It's okay.
Yeah. I also am kind of glad that I'm not as excited as everyone else because, like, that's some dedication.
I know, it is a lot of time.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I just said, like, oh, Disney Dreamlight Valley will take me forever. But, like, yeah, it's
I mean, it is a massive time investment. Like, the next game that's coming out that I'm, like, really excited about is Final Fantasy 16, which comes out at the end of June, which is, like, perfectly timed out because that gives me enough time to just feel comfortable with just playing Zelda. And if I happen to finish it ahead of time, there are other games that are like a little smaller that I want to play. I do still want to play that Star Wars game. But like, it's refreshing to be like, this is it. No need to rush through the story. I guess like I've been playing through a lot of games to like keep up with the new releases, and that sometimes feels like I'm working on a deadline. So it's kind of refreshing to be like, all right, another new game doesn't come out for like 5 more weeks, so just play this game mindlessly, explore, whatever happens. And that's what playing games is all about.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. let's
Anyway,
move into our...
yeah. Should move into our assignments.
I gotta get going pretty soon. I want to eat some lunch before I go.
Yeah. All right. So I believe you are talking about
right.
what I gave you first.
Yes. So last week I was assigned Daft Punk Unchained.
Mm-hmm.
I got the whole title this time because every time I'm just like the Daft Punk documentary.
Yeah,
and you're like, what's the title?
It's
I'm
got
like,
a title.
But it's called Daft Punk Unchained, and this was a BBC documentary. Is that correct? Or that's where we watched it. But...
Yeah, I don't know, BBC might have been involved somehow. I looked up zero facts on the actual making of the documentary. Yeah, I just have like, I didn't even look up facts on Daft Punk. They're just in my...
Because it's in the movie.
It's in the movie, and everything that wasn't in the movie is in my brain. So, just go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, so for those who are unfamiliar with who Daft Punk is, you might know them by their like iconic kind of like robot head masks that they wear. But essentially, this documentary follows just the trajectory of their career. And so I don't want to like get through all the nitpicky stuff because like you could just watch the documentary. But essentially, they started when they were in their teens, so maybe like around 17. And that was in 1993. And the two members are Thomas and Guy Manuel.
Guy-Man.
Sorry. Guy-Man.
Yeah.
And they're both French, which I did not know. And pretty much they started out under this small Scottish record label. And they kind of started in like the underground scene first, was what it seemed like. But I wrote down like everything that happens to them happens pretty quickly. Like their career kind of really takes off with little adversity, in my own opinion. And so, I mean, they are phenomenal as artists, but like, yeah, they kind of just like, it seems like they happen to be in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what summarizes how I would summarize their career. But after being with the Scottish record label for a little bit and putting out a few singles, they end up signing with Virgin in 1996. Later in 2013, they leave Virgin and sign with Columbia Records to produce their final album, which was Random Access Memories. But for the most part, they were with Virgin for a lot of their career. And yeah, they just kind of like take off. They make like electronic music, but it like combines like funk and house music and like all these other, they get inspiration from all these other types of music, to where it created something super unique. And that's kind of like what boosted their popularity, because people are like, this is great dance music that like is different from kind of what we've already heard. And the interesting thing about Daft Punk is they're very much like, we do what we want. We're not going to abide by what anyone else says we should do. And if that's a problem, then so be it. We won't work with them. And honestly, that's a really, I feel like, privileged like experience, sure. like to be able to do that. But I hate to say that because I also don't want to diminish. Like, they are just phenomenal, and like that's what should have happened for them to like blossom. So I love that they advocated for that. But yeah, I was just like, wow, they're really just out here just like doing whatever they want. Yeah. And like people are like, yeah, do that. And I'm like, that's very rare for somebody to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I would say that definitely helps in like what makes them special.
Yeah. Yeah.
They talked about how one of the members, Thomas, his dad was like a music producer in the 70s. Mm-hmm. So them having like that connection also did give them the leg up of knowing like what's going to be a good deal for them, what's not going to be a good deal for them.
For sure.
So like, you know, that definitely gave them an advantage when it came to starting out and like getting those contracts that are like, we own our own records.
Yeah, they definitely had like such a business sense at a young age. And like that was like, I was like, wow, these are like 17-year-old, like even like when they first started, they're like 17-year-old and they like know exactly what their future should look like and like how they're going to get there.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't like, Daft Punk itself did not release its first album until they were in like, you know, their 20s. Yeah.
But I mean, like to know, I mean, because they had to have, like they started making music at 17, so they had to have some idea of like, we would love this thing in the future. Like learning how to navigate so that when they're, you know, in their 20s and like are finally in the business.
Yeah.
Knowing exactly
They
what
know
to do.
what to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So really like the two big things that stood out to me from this documentary. So let me talk a little bit about my experience with Daft Punk. I was never like a Daft Punk fan, or like I liked some of their songs that I knew, like the Work It Harder, that one, I liked that, and I liked Get Lucky with Pharrell. But I didn't really know who Daft Punk was. Like I just knew that I had heard their music, and I feel like my engagement with Daft Punk was through what other people sampled from them.
Mm-hmm.
And so like Kanye West sampling them and like all this stuff. It's like, okay, I like that. And I know it comes from someone else, but I didn't really know who. And I'm not a big electronic music person. So like when we started watching the documentary, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like care too much about their trajectory, because it's just like not my vibes. And I will say I did feel like there was not much to their career. Like it's like, oh, they made a hit. Oh, they made a hit. Oh, they made a hit. People love them. And I was like, okay. Like,
I mean, it's a quick 90-minute documentary.
Yeah. Yeah. It was cool learning like how they made the music. But anyways, the two parts that really stood out to me was first the reason behind the masks, which I kind of assumed what the reason was. And I mean, that was correct. It's basically like, you're able to live a normal life. Like this type of music was an underground music scene to where you didn't need a face to it. Like it was all about the music. And so you had that aspect to it. And also like these two guys not wanting to be so famous that they can't just live. Like yeah. And then also like,
it's like they Hannah Montana themselves.
Yeah. And then also too, like as you get older, there's certain expectations about your music, and like, it's nice to be able to not have a face, because then people aren't concerned about like, why are they making this kind of music at 40? You know, like people aren't putting those kind of like barriers on them, because they're just these robots and they like take on the persona of robots and they don't say anything. So that stood out. And then the Coachella performance, that is like super iconic. And I'll admit, I was like, they're just standing there. Like,
they're not though.
They're not. I mean, they're not. They're not. I have mad respect for how you DJ, and also it was like a crazy light show. And the Coachella performance happened in 2006, which adds another layer to it, because it's like this kind of crazy technology. I would be terrified if I were working for them on that set.
Yeah, can you shed a little light about what this whole Coachella 2006 set, like what the story is there? What's that about?
I mean, I'm probably not the best person to do this, but it was like a pyramid, and it was like all like a ton of LED lights, and it's like a light show essentially, and then they're in the middle of this like pyramid DJing, and there was like, I think it said like in this tent there could have been like 10,000 people, but the max was like 10,000, but it ended up being like 40,000 people that were there, and everyone was just having a great time. And yeah,
can I like fill in a little bit?
Sure.
So like, yeah, I mean the story there is that Coachella was just getting started. Like Coachella is like this big event as it is now. Back then it was like very kind of early years Coachella, but it was still like becoming more and more a thing, and it had this reputation. And I mean they did their performance like nobody knowing what the heck they were gonna do. Everybody wants to see Daft Punk live, but also like, they are DJs, and it's not, like I guess what I'm trying to say is that level of performance for like electronic dance music, like just the level of production that they put into that performance with the LED lights and just the whole light show and the pyramid and the light show and the pyramid and the pyramid and the light show, like the whole thing, the people in the documentary pointed out like basically nobody else in the music industry had done something to that high of a level of production with technology to just make something like that.
Yeah.
And they talk about how that moment, like the pyramid at Coachella, like it all started with the pyramid at Coachella, because it blew up like just this whole kind of music industry cultural moment of people having like way more production for their live shows. It gave like artists like Skrillex basically like a blueprint for when they later like Skrillex is interviewed in this documentary and he's like, yeah, like that seeing that performance changed my life. Once I, became big and did my own performances, like it all started from that. Like nobody had done that before. And now, you go to like a rave or something nowadays and it's like basically everybody is just doing that now. And there had never been anybody that had done that before. And it all started with the Pyramid of Coachella.
Yeah. So those are kind of like the two big things that I remember from the documentary or that stood out to me.
What about their last studio album?
What about it?
What I mean, do you want to? So the reason I assigned this is because this like a week ago was the 10th anniversary of their last studio album, which was Random Access Memories. Which the whole point of the creation of that album was like, yeah, okay, so like. The way I see it, I guess I could talk about this from like my experience as a fan. It was like I became a fan of this is kind of like the least authentic way to become a fan of a music artist, but I first became a fan of Daft Punk after playing DJ Hero, which if you're not familiar with DJ Hero, it's basically like Guitar Hero, but with a little turntable, and it's made by the people that made Guitar Hero. And when they made DJ Hero, they got a bunch of different famous DJs like DJ Snake, DJ AM, and Daft Punk to make these like original mixes for the game. And there was like two Daft Punk super mixes in this game, and like the final secret character that you could get in that game was Daft Punk. And I kind of knew who they were, but I didn't really know who they were. And that's when I kind of like in my mind like started listening to all their music. They like blew up for me. The Coachella Pyramid that had already happened, and I just like I didn't know, and that was probably like 2009 to 2010 ish. And so they did like the Tron Legacy soundtrack, which I was like so stoked on that when it was coming out because I was like, I really like Tron. Like the original Tron was kind of this weird thing. And I remember playing through the Tron world in Kingdom Hearts 2, and that's like one of my favorite games. And now they're making this new movie and it looks super cool. The CGI looks super awesome, and they got Daft Punk to make the soundtrack, which is a banger of a soundtrack. So like I had these kind of like my own fan moments of like, maybe the girls that are chasing after Hannah Montana want to buy her new CD or whatever. Like Daft Punk was basically my equivalent of that, growing up or at least in high school. And then when they made Random Access Memories, the whole point was like the whole point of like the like electronic music scene in the 90s, like the house music and all that, is like trying to kind of like maintain the spirit of like disco and funk was, or the spirit that disco and funk had in like the 70s and the 80s, like kind of keep that spirit alive. And so when they made Random Access Memories, the point of it was to basically like go back to the roots of the music, in the like of the spirit of the music. And that's why they brought on like Nile Rodgers and Pharrell Williams, and like just the whole essence of that album was basically like take the roots but then bring them into the future. And I mean, it's an incredible album. It's like probably, if not my favorite album, it would be like my second favorite album. And if it was my second favorite album, then my favorite album would be Discovery, which is also a Daft Punk record. So like that album, I remember when it was like when they announced that album, I was expecting like where electronic music went after they did the whole Pyramid at Coachella thing. Like like a whole bunch of artists came out, like Justice, and then Skrillex and like dubstep. Like dubstep was huge when Random Access Memories was coming out. So I was like, oh hey, like Daft Punk basically created electronic music the way that we listen to it today, and now dubstep is a big thing. Like, ooh, this is really exciting. Maybe Daft Punk's gonna do a dubstep thing, which, like, looking back, like, can you imagine? That would just be crazy. But I remember, like, a lot of people got into electronic music around that time, like 2012, 2013, because of artists like Skrillex. And then this album comes out, and I'm, a 19-year-old kid thinking like, oh yeah, this is going to be, Daft Punk's take on dubstep. But, and then you play it, and then Give Life Back to Music is the first track on that record. And it's so good, and it's called Give Life Back to Music, which was just like this totally subversive thing to my expectation that, like, just completely blew my mind. And like, that record is incredible. And they ended up winning best album of the year.
I think that's one thing that I feel like this documentary made me sad about. It's like, I didn't have that appreciation for Daft Punk because I was like, oh, what, like, they do electronic music? Like, so they do dubstep. And I'm not a dubstep fan.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, and so I would never touch it. And, like, listening to, like, so after we watched the movie, I was like, well, put on their music. And, like, I had heard, the only reason I knew more songs than I thought I knew was because I've heard you play it, but I didn't know it was Daft Punk. And I was like, I really enjoy this, and I'm sad that I didn't enjoy it when they were, like, the thing, because I thought it was what everyone else was. I thought it was like your Skrillex, your, like, dubstep and everything like that, and that was just never my scene. So yeah, for them it's never about the show, it's never about the spectacle, it's never about the, like, having the rave and getting all the attention, and, like any other music artist would do. For them, it is just about their music and trying to innovate and do something different and, like, give back to the music with everything that they do. So yeah, that's partly what makes them my favorite music artist. Yeah.
I
respect that. I get it.
Yeah. And the hiding of the faces as well. One, great idea, because then you can just walk around and go to Target and not be bothered by people. But two, also, like, their whole point about, it's the focus then just stays on the music. The music is like, we're these robots, and the robots are from the future or whatever, like, they processed and gave us this music. And like, and it also speaks to their whole thing about, like, having this incredible attention to detail. There's always intention behind every single note that's played, and I just, like, I love everything about that. It's just, like, this perfect unification of, like, what they were trying to do artistically, and they just, like, they nailed it. And then they, in 2021, decided to say Daft Punk is no longer a thing, like, it's no more. And it's like, you know what, like, despite the fact that after Random Access Memories came out in 2013, we all hoped that they would do something again. Like, they did Starboy and I Feel It Coming with The Weeknd, which, like, are both great tracks. It, like, them deciding to stop, though it was disappointing, was also like, you know what, like, if you stop, that like, your legacy's perfect. It's done.
I like the masks.
You've got a thing for Tomas.
I was like,
mask.
I didn't even know which one it was that was in it. Taller one.
The taller one, yeah.
I was like, the mask with the suits is just so much swag, and like, it's just, I don't know. I was like, am I in love with the robot? What's going on? What is this?
I like that it was, like, when they introduced the robots, it was kind of just like these guys, or they were just these robots, and then they incorporated, like, the leather outfits when they did their Human After All album. And then as it kind of progressed, like, once it got towards Random Access Memories, they're, like, in these nice sparkly suits, but, like, the swag is on 10.
Like, the way they, like, walk in them, and, like, I don't know, just everything about it. I was like, ooh.
The oh man, and then when they when they performed with The Weeknd doing I Feel It Coming at the Grammys, like their
like
outfits,
Darth Vader outfits.
Yeah, they had like these full on,
Capes.
capes with like I don't even know, like this like gold and silver styling on the cuffs, or I don't even know what to call that part, the lapel. It was like, oh my god, like, and with the necklaces, it's like, dang, just nailed it. Like it could not have been more swaggy.
I'm like, who's their stylist?
Yeah, I think, I know Warren Fu does a lot of their like art direction stuff. But I mean, combination of talented people, I'm sure.
Their stylist deserves awards because their style is impeccable.
Yep.
Did they ever attend the Met Gala?
I don't think so. I think maybe them as themselves maybe did, and just nobody knew they were there. Like I saw a picture of Thomas at the Cannes I say film festival. He was like sitting next to Forrest Whitaker or something, and somebody snapped a picture and was like, that's definitely one of the members of Daft Punk. And you see it and you're like, oh man, he's old.
I know, because like as like the documentary goes and they're getting older and older and it's now becoming like 2010s and things, I'm like still imagining them like as 20-year-olds, and I'm like, oh yeah, wait a second, they're probably like 30, 40 now, almost 40 now. Like, yeah. I kept having to remind myself like, oh, these aren't young dudes. Like, I mean, that's still young, but I'm like envisioning they're gonna take off their helmet and be this 20-year-old I've just like concocted in my head.
Yeah,
even though I've seen their face.
That's like the last pictures of them that were like highly public and recorded are from the 90s.
But even like seeing their face when they had the mask on, I imagined a whole different face. Like, I was like, underneath there is not the person I saw in that picture. It's someone I just made up in my head.
Trust me, that was me for years. It wasn't until like being a fan for like 5, 6, 7 years where I finally Googled like Daft Punk no helmets and saw what they looked like when they were younger. I was like, that's just not what I like, no. They're robots.
It's like when you read a book and then they cast the movie for it and you're like, that's not them. That's not what they're supposed to look like.
Right,
and it's because you just made it up in your head. Even to this day, when I read a book and it'll give me a full description of what this character looks like, I completely disregard it because I'm like, I want to make up how I think I want, like how I want them to look, Yeah.
Well, they're no longer making music as Daft Punk, but I think individually...
They retired in 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Individually, they are kind of doing their own things. I think Guy-Man is just kind of doing whatever, but Thomas has gotten a lot into producing in the last few years. I think he produced Arcade Fire's album. I forgot the name of that album, but it came out in like 2018 or so. They've done a little bit of writing. But I know Thomas just came out with like a ballet record.
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Are they one of the first artists to do a sort of like visual album? Like, because they made that anime.
That was very ahead of its time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they did Interstellar 5555, which is, it's a visual album for their Discovery album. It's the feature length film of basically all of the music videos for their Discovery album, which came out in 2000, I believe. I would say Discovery is like, when people think of like classic Daft Punk, that's basically that whole album. It's an incredible album. It's the one that's got One More Time, Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, Digital Love. It's so good. But yeah, Interstellar 5555 is anime that is just like, if you look up the music video for one of those songs from that album, you're gonna get basically the clip from the movie where that song plays. Which I don't. Yeah, especially in the year 2000, like nobody else had done that.
Yeah, because like the only person I know who has done that is Beyonce, and that was like Lemonade, which was like not that long ago.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I wonder if they were kind of like the first artist to like
I don't know if they were the first, but certainly to make it all an anime,
Yeah.
I think definitely. Yeah,
Cool.
for sure. Yeah, anyway, big fan. Love them. Yeah, they're so good. It's one of those things where like if I become friends with somebody and then realize they also like love and appreciate Daft Punk on the same level as me, then suddenly it like takes our friendship to a new level. It's like, oh, they know. Like Hector. Anytime I see something Daft Punk related, go straight to Hector. Or like my oldest brother. He like loves and appreciates. So, like I remember one time I was on this road trip with my brothers and some other people in my family. I think we were on our way to a baseball game, so not really a road trip. But we were talking about Daft Punk, and I remember my middle brother, he made this comment. He was like, yeah, I remember when like that last album came out, like I was really hoping that they would make some kind of like dubstep thing or something. Like, and then they put it out and it came out like, you know, it's like old music, like, I don't know, just a missed opportunity. And I was like, you literally missed the whole point. Sorry to call him out. I think he loves and appreciates that album now, but in that conversation I was like, I think you missed the whole point of the album. And he was like, and he said to my oldest brother, he was like, oh, like, did you like that album? He was like, yeah, I loved it. Like it's perfect. And yeah, just love like those conversations. I've had such a relationship with like engaging with anything that's new that's Daft Punk. Like I bought posters. I had a shirt at one point. Like when they put out official Daft Punk merch, that was a big deal. They went the whole like it's got a seal on it that you know it's like official Daft Punk merchandise. Which is kind of like that's like Nintendo does that now. Like official seal of quality.
My stomach's growling.
I
I'm
hear
so
that.
hungry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But anyway, if I was to ever make my own merchandise, it would like I would take the same approach, like official seal of quality. Just love that. It's so cool.
Yeah. Can I get a snack?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm starving.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I will fill the space. As you were getting a snack.
You want a snack?
Yeah. If you could give me a. No. Actually, I'm okay.
I'm gonna do a Snickers. Is that bad?
No. You know, they say if you are like out hiking and you haven't had anything to eat, if you eat a Snickers bar, it'll give you the extra energy you need to go the extra mile.
Really? Is that because of the peanuts?
I would imagine it's a combination of sugar and nuts. Yeah.
Well, doing the job.
Right on. Anything else you would like to say?
No. I mean, I think overall, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's as far as the documentary itself goes, like I signed this just so we could talk about Daft Punk and like there was just a quick way to kind of encapsulate their career. The way that the documentary itself is like super French and like
I think I wouldn't have I didn't mind that, but I think I would have preferred to watch this documentary just watching it and not for the podcast. Purely for the fact that, like, I'm trying to take, like, I had a hard time taking notes because every time I look down, they're speaking nothing but French.
Yeah.
And so I was missing everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot that I didn't catch, like, explanations about things that, like, seem pretty important.
Yeah.
Because I just, like, couldn't, and I don't know French. So I was like,
yeah.
I don't know.
So when I was describing it as super French, I didn't necessarily mean, like, literally they were speaking French.
Oh.
I meant like the way that it is presented is a bit more like on the abstract side. Like it's not told in a very straightforward like this is it and let's go through the years kind of way. We will be like it does take you through the years, but it'll be like they interviewed Nile Rodgers, and technically Nile Rodgers didn't work with them until Random Access Memories in 2013. But it's like, let's just introduce him because we interviewed him like partway through, and it kind of like jumps around a little bit, but yet like does kind of feel abstract and like the main points and ideas.
Yeah.
I feel like they interviewed Michel Gondry at one point, who was like a director. He did Be Kind Rewind, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. He directed the Around the World music video. And like when they were interviewing him, he was like painting while he was talking to them. And that to me just was like, all right, the ultimate Frenchiness of this documentary.
And they were like horrible paint. It was like stick figures.
It was just stream of consciousness. He was just making something as he was going. I was like, yes, this to me, like his approach to this interview right now feels like it kind of speaks to this larger theme of like the approach to this documentary and just how it's Frenchiness. Like if you've seen French films, then you kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Yeah. No, I mean ultimately I like this is like my third time I think I've seen this.
Oh my god.
When they announced, well, because I watched this when I found out that it existed in like 2018, and then when they announced their retirement, my brother and I, we were living together at the time. We like sat down and we watched this and then like my friend Ryan, I like went and hung out with him, and to like, kind of like honor their retirement, we watched Tron Legacy together. And I listened to all of their music. Alive 2007. Somebody made like, there's a video on YouTube that somebody made visualizing like all these crazy effects to their Alive 2007 album, which is their set from Coachella basically. And it is incredible to watch. Just like effects wise, what this person made, it's incredible. Anyway, point being like, it was great to like honor them in that way, and for like other people to like who know to be like, yeah, I want to sit and watch Tron Legacy, or like, yeah, I want to sit and watch this documentary. And now that they're doing the whole 10th anniversary stuff that's coming out, like the 10th anniversary album came out, so it's got demos and unreleased tracks on it. Now they're doing this like memory tapes thing where like they interview Julian Casablancas to talk about, one, the track that he did on Random Access Memories, but two, the track that they had made together back in 2013 that just never got released until now. So I'm interested to see like what more stuff they have to bring out. They've done a lot more, like 25th anniversary of their debut album Homework. They did a lot of like behind the scenes stuff for that last year. So there's just like more stuff kind of coming out. Like as they were making stuff, it was all just very mysterious, and now that they're done, it's like now we can all see it, and that's really neat.
Love that.
Yeah. Anyway, I've been talking a lot, so I think I am done.
Well, no, because you gotta talk about Stepford Wives.
Well, no, yeah. I'm done talking about Daft Punk. All right. Take a swig of water. Are you reading up on Stepford Wives over there?
Yeah, because there was a fact that I wanted to look at and I forgot about it. I wanted to dig deeper into it.
All right. So I'll just go ahead and get started. I was assigned the Stepford Wives, and it was made in 2004. Is that correct? Either 2003 or 2004.
Good question.
It stars Nicole Kidman and Matthew Broderick, but primarily 2004. Okay. Primarily Nicole Kidman. It follows a woman named Joanna, played by Nicole Kidman, and she runs a TV network that features reality shows, and a lot of these reality shows empower women. And she has a fall from grace after, during one of these reality shows that she created called I Can Do Better, this woman leaves her husband after being on that reality show, and the husband basically like loses his mind. He tries to murder Joanna while she's being like commemorated at this event, and because of all of that and the ensuing lawsuits from that show, the network decides to fire her. So her and her husband moved to the suburbs in Stepford Estates, Connecticut. And upon arrival, she slowly starts to realize, well, Stepford Estates, I guess what I should say is everything just seems so perfect. It's everybody's houses are beautiful. Everybody's houses have like these systems that it's like a smart home where everything can communicate and you can like lock the doors with the push of a button and all that. And something about the women in this neighborhood is just off. They all seem to be very subservient to the men to the point where it feels like they're robots. And, well, eventually they go to a 4th of July celebration picnic and there's a square dance happening and one of the women starts spinning out of control to the point where it seems like she is literally malfunctioning like a robot, and sparks fly out of her neck and suddenly she's like fixed after Christopher Walken like snaps her neck, and yeah, sparks fly out, she's fine like a literal robot. And so as things continue, we start to pull back the layers and find out that essentially essentially all of the men in this neighborhood got married to these super boss level wives who are crushing it in their careers, and it makes the husbands feel like emasculated, like they're not manly enough. And so they aren't having it, and they want to feel more like men. So they have their like men, like toxic men. They have their wives essentially like robotized by Christopher Walken, and it's kind of like everybody around Joanna is basically like gaslighting her into thinking like there's nothing wrong here, including her husband, and he knows exactly like what's going on, and that she's gonna get robotized, and he's like okay with it. And it eventually kind of comes to this tipping point where she is going to become a robot, and we think that she's become a robot and that her husband was all on board with it, but it turns out that they were pretending, and that he was like, I don't want my wife to not be my wife. So she pretends to become robotized, and then he sneaks into this like underground lab, and he basically just starts pushing buttons, which I don't know why that would possibly work. But he just goes to this control panel, starts jamming all the buttons, and they manage to shut down all of the robot programming, and all the women come back to being themselves while they're at this like ball event. And in the process, all of the men are suddenly terrified, and they become like little like the wusses that they said like, oh, our wives were so successful, it made us feel like wusses. And then so they make their wives subservient, but now their wives come back to being their wives, and they revert back to being wusses again. So, which I liked that little detail. And yeah, it all kind of culminates in this moment where like Christopher Walken, it turns out he was a robot, and his wife, Glenn Close, who introduced them to the whole neighborhood, it was leading to this point of like thinking, oh yeah, like Christopher Walken's character was behind it all. He created all of these robots, and Glenn Close is also a robot, and you know she's his wife. Turns out Christopher Walken was the robot, and that she created him, and she created all of these robot women, and she wanted to create like a perfect society where like the women would be good women and the men would be good men, and like they could all just be themselves. And
themselves.
Right.
They're like nothing but.
But then she says like, you know, my plan was to turn the men into robots eventually too.
Yeah. Or anything but, sorry.
Yeah, but so basically like the whole program gets destroyed, and the men's punishment for trying to make their wives subservient is that now they're on house arrest, and they have to basically become house husbands, and it ends with a scene of the men at the grocery store not knowing where anything is,
which like is so dumb. I'm like, put them in jail.
I mean, it's a very stylized
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of got like a Tim Burton-esque, almost like
Which he was actually
stylization.
connected to the project at one point, but
That makes
or
sense.
was going to be a part of the project.
Well, one of the first things I noticed in the opening credits of this movie, which is a lengthy opening credits sequence that's kind of showing like 1950s aesthetic stuff, like, you know, the men go to work and the women.
It's like these shiny appliances.
Yeah,
They're all
shiny
excited
appliances.
about it.
We're living like we really thought we were living in the future in the 50s. And the women stay at home and are subservient to their husbands. But I saw that Frank Oz was the one that he directed this movie, and Frank Oz, like, he has worked on like puppetry for a really long time. He literally was the voice of Yoda. He himself is Yoda. So that kind of like clicked almost immediately for me of like how this movie was made in this style in this way, because it's very like, oh yeah, Frank Oz would have made this. And I liked that they made little there was a scene where one of the Joanna's friends, who is not a robot, becomes a robot, and she is talking to her children, and she gave them like their lunches, and one of the children is like, "Where's my action figures?" She's like, "It's got Mace Windu and Amidala." And he's like, "What about Boba Fett?" And she's like, "Oh, they were out." And he was like, "Oh man." She's like, "Well, here's $500. I was like, "Oh, like Star Wars reference," because Frank Oz is the one that's directing this movie. Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway.
You like it?
You know, I wasn't sure what to expect. You hear a title like The Stepford Wives, and you just don't know how boring that's gonna end up being.
Yeah.
But then when we actually started watching, I was like, oh, this is kind of like a neat, fun little concept. I liked the aesthetic of it all. I liked that it kind of had this science fiction angle, but like from a 1950s perspective. And it has a lot to say about like gender dynamics and like it really kind of, it was very much like this social commentary of like when the men now, like, their wives are just subservient and are just taking care of all of their needs. What the men then do is like they're playing like battle robots.
Nothing.
Yeah, they do absolutely nothing. They're fighting robots together. They're drinking beer or cocktails and like smoking cigars and just chilling out,
acting like children.
Yeah, essentially. And I'm like, that. What a perfect commentary, because like that's, in a way, like if that world existed, that's exactly what we would be doing. So yeah, but it also made me reflect and think like, you know what, like I appreciate my partner. I would never want her to become a subservient robot. It's the conversations that we can have with each other and the fact that we're best friends that make the whole relationship feel as fruitful as it is. But yeah, so I did like the movie. I certainly didn't expect to. But I thought it was fun, quirky little thing. I did see that it wasn't like the most well-rated movie. Which I thought was kind of interesting. Like the ratings were like kind of, at least the IMDb rating was like a lot. I had seen the IMDb rating when I was trying to figure out like where to find this movie, and I was like, "Ooh, it's like 5.6." But then we watched the movie, and I was like, "This seems a lot better than a 5.6. I wonder what that's about." No, it's cute. It's dumb at the same time.
I mean, it's supposed to be a comedy. It's not supposed to be this like serious, you know.
No, yeah, it's
supposed to be
silly.
like
It's lighthearted. And at the end, it's kind of like, no way, how would that happen, you know? But, like, I think for what they were going for, like, you know, nailed it.
I think it's so funny, like, watching this movie and, like, being back here in my parents' house, because my parents are starting to see our dynamic and how we do things and, like, compare it to their own dynamic. And, like, so me and you, we, like, switch days off cooking. Like, you cook one day, I cook the next day, and, like, we pretty much all of our chores we split 50-50 so that we're both pulling our weight. But for my parents, like, my mom tends to do everything for my dad. So it's so funny because you're cooking and my mom's like, Parker's cooking? Like,
Oh
what?
my gosh.
And then she looks at my dad and is like, how come you don't do that?
Oh my gosh.
And it's so funny. And I feel like the way I was raised, and this is like, I love my mom to pieces. But I think this is just like how she's always grown up. And so like anytime we talk about responsibilities, like I've always gotten the message of like, you know, you kind of have to take care of men, like that's just what you do. Like when you're in a relationship, you're gonna be the one to do like all the laundry, you're gonna be the one to do all the like cooking, like that's just what you have to do, all the cleaning. And I never loved, like I always was like, why? Like anytime we'd have those conversations, I'm like, I'm not doing that. And she's like, well, that's just your responsibility. And I'm like, why? You know? And so I don't know, I appreciate where we're at now.
Yeah.
Because like that, watching that is like, that seems like such a miserable life. Like I'm not, and my favorite, I relate so heavily to Bette Midler's character.
Yeah.
Because her husband is like, oh, like, why don't you make cookies? And she just like looks him dead in his eyes, like, why don't you?
Yeah.
And like, that's her response to everything. He's like, well, why don't you do this? She's like, you can do it. And I'm like, I feel like that's how I can be.
Yeah. Well, as a result of that, their house is a complete mess, right?
It is a complete mess, which would like drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But
I think both of us, like, the fact that, yeah, we can recognize that and respect each other and say, like, well, then we're both doing it.
Yeah.
And that we're both responsible.
Yeah.
Our stuff ends up coming out, you know.
Yeah.
Our stuff's, you know, we're clean.
We're
clean. We're balanced.
Of course. I would never let, neither one of us would let things just like sit because like neither one of us is, or like we're like waiting for the other person to do it. Like that's just not who we are.
I mean, like, you know, I mean, the movie in and of itself is kind of like an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like I need to know how to take care of myself. Like if we were not in a relationship and I lived on my own, like, you know, to be a man, you have to know how to do things yourself.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many men who don't though.
Well, like to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
These days.
Yeah.
I feel like,
These
you know,
days. Yeah.
like I can't, well, obviously, like it would be less manly for me to let you do everything because then like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you were just serving my every need, then I would just become pathetic and also useless, you know, like what you wouldn't even need me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why to me it makes more sense to have the balance.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm lucky in the sense that you like I don't need to tell you what to do. Like it's not me nagging you to do something. It's like you just know.
I mean you'll tell me what to do.
I mean occasionally.
Yeah.
Occasionally laundry
but
piles up and I'm like
yeah, sure. But like
but yeah.
You're going to tell me what to do and I'm not going to complain about it because I'm going to be like, yeah, you're right. Like that thing does need to get done. And like I want it to get done and I'm not going to expect you to do it because you know, I'm a whole other person in the house capable of doing it. Yeah. So I'm going to do it. You know? Yeah.
But I feel like that's still rare in relationships. I feel like, I mean, we've evolved a lot, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of women are still in that kind of like caretaking role.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I kind of liked that that they took that angle with Glenn Close's character at the end, and that she created all of it. Yeah, because I think it also does kind of get at this thing in our modern society where, like, yes, you and I are like, yeah, we gotta, you know, you're not gonna serve me, we're gonna be balanced, but there are still like women now. Yeah. That like their whole thing is they want to be that like serving housewife.
Yeah, for sure. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But where the issue comes in is when women who don't want that life are then shamed. Yeah. Because like I think of like I know a lot of moms, for example, working moms who take their kids to daycare. or well, no. So I know two people who recently shared with me before, like their husbands take their kids to daycare because the husband's on their way to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They take their kids to daycare, and then like the moms are also working, so they go to work, or they work from home, so it makes more sense. And they get like the one time that they do pick up their child from daycare, everyone's like, "Oh, we never see you. Like, how come you're not the one taking, your kid to?" It's like they get shamed because it's like people are like, "You're not around like you're not with your kid. Like, what are you doing? Why is it the husband that's doing it?" And it's like that's why I'm like, you'd be surprised. I feel like how many people still like, and of course it's just like what you've learned through the generations and what you've been passed, like the messages you've been passed. But I think there's still a lot of like, I think of people who are new moms, and it's really hard because every other mom has an opinion on how to raise your child, how to do this, how to do that. Like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why are you not breastfeeding? Like that sort of thing. And it's like we still have these very similar messages about being a caretaker, about being a wife, about like all these things. And so, yeah, we're still not as progressive as I feel like we should be.
It's just a lot more subtle, so it makes it kind of harder for us to pick up on.
Yeah.
Or it's like, I guess it's now micro,
Yeah, for sure. Do you have anything else you want to say before I say some facts?
Not really. At one point, I kind of realized watching this movie, like, hey, where are their kids? And they do, I guess, bring it up and say, like, the kids are at day camp, which, what were they doing at day camp? I mean,
if it's the summertime and they're like,
does this take? Yeah, okay. I guess this does take place during the whole summer. Oh, yeah, you're right.
So
I was just kind of wondering, like, what are the kids like? It's a movie, and it's like, it's science fiction, so like it's not, I'm not supposed to think so hard on it, but I'm kind of like thinking like, well, what happens when the kids then go to school? What happens when the kids get older? What happens when, do the kids go to college? Do they, do the teen girls then like become reprogrammed to become wives for like what happens?
I never thought about that. Yeah.
This is very much just like kind of capturing like a nuclear family moment in this town, but like what happens when their kids get older? Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I don't think anyone's thought that through. That's so funny. I always think about like there are neighborhoods, and like where we live is kind of one of these neighborhoods where it's like there's a whole society within the neighborhood. So like you really don't have to like leave the neighborhood if you want to go get dinner. Like there's a restaurant within, all the houses and things.
Are you talking about in Virginia?
Yeah, like our neighborhood. But there's another neighborhood in Kentucky called Norton Commons that is also very much like this. It's like it has its own shops, it has its own doctors, it has its own everything. So you don't even really have to leave your neighborhood. Yeah. And like I always refer to those type of neighborhoods as Stepford Wives neighborhoods. Because I'm like, it's like it has its own. You're in a bubble. Yeah. Like you're in this like Truman Show like bubble where there's a certain culture and everyone knows everyone, and like everyone, like, because everything's in there, like it's just known you're gonna go to this person for this, it's known you're gonna go to that person.
I don't know what it is, but there's just a part of me internally that wants that.
No, I'm always very skeptical because like for those who don't know, I had moved to Virginia first because I had started my program before you came along, and I found where we lived, like I didn't get to visit, I didn't get to do any of that. And so I just kind of like picked what looked okay in the pictures, and was like, this is in my price, like in our price range and everything like that. And so that's just where I picked, and I was like, I'm gonna hope for the best. Like I know it's a little bit outside of like where I'll be going to school and everything. And I remember getting there and being like, okay, like a little eerie, but still nice, still looks good. And I mean, our neighborhood is like, at least the houses are so diverse, and like I don't know. And it feels a bit more open than just like isolated to this one thing. But that neighborhood I was talking about in Kentucky, it's like every house looks the same.
Yeah.
It's all these like white, kind of like White House looking houses. They all have American flags. It's like very eerie.
I wouldn't want to live in a town like that necessarily, where every house looks exactly the same and it's like every single person is living the same life.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for that. But I do have something in me that just wants to have like a small town where you have everything you need within a short distance. You know everybody. There's community events.
Yeah.
You know,
I do like that. Like that.
There's yeah.
But
that's supposed to be like the dream or whatever.
For sure. And I love where we live currently. I love it. But yeah, no, it's always it's just funny because I refer to this movie a lot, just like when I'm visiting places. I'll be like, oh, this is a Stepford Wives neighborhood. And I don't know if anyone knows what I mean by that when I say it to them, but yeah, it's just like, this movie stuck out to me a lot. I think I first saw it when I was in high school, and I was like, what did I just watch? It was so wild, bizarre. But I love it. So facts.
Yeah, hit me with some facts.
So I don't think you mentioned this, but this is based off of a book, and it's also a remake of an older movie.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so the book came out in 1972, and the first film that was an adaptation of the book came out in 1975. So yeah, it was like two things before it became the Nicole Kidman version.
Gotcha.
So it's interesting you talk about like ratings and things like that. The biggest fact that came up was that production was basically a nightmare.
Really?
There was a lot of tension between a lot of people. Things were just kind of like falling to pieces. They kept re-editing and rewriting the whole movie pretty much based on test screenings.
Oh, and what a nightmare.
Yeah, and so Frank Oz said like in an interview, he was like, my biggest regret was I was so focused on what the audiences wanted, on what like the the company that was producing the film,
Paramount.
Yeah, like what they wanted, what all these stakeholders wanted. That like I feel like it led to a lot of weird plot holes. Like the movie I felt like wasn't as cohesive as I would have liked it, and things like that. And I think because of a lot of those rewrites and the actors were starting to get fed up. And so pretty much like Nicole Kidman reported that she almost left the project because she was just like dissatisfied with the script rewrites. Like she was just like, what is going on? There was also some tension with Frank Oz and Christopher Walken. I don't know the details behind that, but there was like some tension there. And then also there was an interview of Frank Oz where they wrote that he blamed Bette Midler for being under a lot of stress from other projects, and she was bringing that stress onto the set, which like made it worse for everybody. So it just seems like everyone was kind of clashing.
That seems tough.
Yeah, because everything was.
And then you've got all these test screenings going on, and trying to cater to what people are saying there. Oh, it just sounds like the worst time.
Yes, and so one of the biggest rewrites, I guess, is the ending of the movie. So the ending of the movie, I found a fact that was like the ending of the movie doesn't follow the ending of the book, and that they changed it because test audiences didn't like the ending of the movie.
What was the ending?
So in the book, and I don't know if this was the ending of the movie at first or they did something else, but in the ending of the book, I think Joanna becomes a robot. Like that's just like the end. She ends up being a robot. But it's like way more nuanced and as to like how that happened, I'm assuming. Or I think I tried to read a synopsis of the book and it was just like so detailed. I was like, I can't listen to you and read this at the same time. So but I do know that she becomes a robot at the end. I don't know if that's what the original ending of this movie was, because I think that is the ending of the first movie, the 1975 movie.
Seems like a bad message.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know what the original ending of this movie was, but they did change it based on the feedback that they got and made it so that they save everybody. So yeah.
I mean, yeah. I liked how they ended this.
Yeah.
And I like that they did the whole, like, yeah, Glenn Close was the one behind it angle. I don't know. It seemed like there was more to chew on, more commentary in that ending.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It makes me... So I recently... Because since I knew we were going to watch this, I was like, I'm going to finally sit down and watch Don't Worry, Darling. Because when I had first seen the trailers of Don't Worry, Darling, I was like, oh, is this kind of like Stepford Wives?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I watched it. Don't Worry, Darling is a lot darker.
Yeah.
But I think it does have some similarities, obviously, like this creating this like robot where the women are like robots. They're not robots in Don't Worry, Darling. It's a bit more complex than that. But like basically bringing these women into like a 1950s kind of experience so that these men can like live the lives
men
they
were
want.
doing one thing.
Yeah, and there's a... I don't know. Should I not spoil it?
Probably not.
Yeah. Well, there's a similarity from this ending.
Yeah.
To the ending of Don't Worry, Darling.
Sure.
So yeah. So I feel like there's a lot more parallels than there are differences. Yeah.
Nice. Well, solid pick. I underestimated how much I would enjoy this. Yeah.
Seeing that robot dog, I was like, oh God.
The robot dog was kind of weird.
That was so weird.
Robo Rover 3000 was this robot dog that they got when they moved into the house, and it's like plastic.
It's like Spy Kids level
yeah.
CGI.
Yeah. I don't know what to take of that. It was.
Know.
Yeah.
I saw it and was like, I do not remember that at all.
It was
like,
scary.
What is that? I know, it's weird.
Like
it's very
genuinely terrifying little piece of CGI there.
But it kind of adds to it. Like
it
makes
did.
It even
it did
creepier.
add to it. Yeah. It did feel like, oh, that's what the 1950s would have concocted out of a small robot dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, for sure.
Whew. All right.
Yeah. Should we do assignments?
I have nothing.
I didn't pick anything either, so I'm going through.
I've got it in my head. I'm going for it.
All right. What are you assigning?
I think I'm just gonna go with a childhood movie.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just go for it. I'm gonna give you The Warriors of Virtue.
Okay. Isn't that... Oh, I was like, isn't that the name of the video game I played?
What video game?
The something Last Virtue or something like that.
Virtue's Last Reward.
There we go.
No. I've given you The Warriors and I've given you Virtue's Last Reward, but I've never given you Warriors of Virtue.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's it's gonna be weird. It's pretty weird. It's a movie that came out in the 90s. I watched a lot as a kid. I had it on home video. It's like, it's up there with like, Jumanji and like Never Ending Story. Mm-hmm. Like it's like that, but it's...
I love Jumanji.
Yeah, it sits in that space in my brain.
Okay.
But not a lot of people seem to know about it.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, this will be real interesting. I haven't seen it in well over 25 years. So,
okay,
yeah,
all right,
maybe 20 years, but yeah.
Got to. I'm stuck between two picks, so I'll let you decide which one I assign. I could give you an animated movie,
okay,
or I can give you a movie that's really bad, but I find kind of funny.
Really bad that you find kind of funny in an animated movie?
Yeah.
I'll take what's the genre of the really bad movie but you find kind of funny?
It's like it's actually based on a true story. It's like I don't know.
Is the animated movie a little more like whimsical?
I guess.
No?
It's not like a... It's a DreamWorks animation.
It is DreamWorks?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.
Okay. I'm going to give you How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh! Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. I've never... Yeah,
I love How to Train Your Dragon.
I have never seen the entirety of the first one. I've seen a part of it.
It's so cute.
I've seen the second one.
I don't remember the second one.
Is there a third one?
I think so.
Yeah. And then there's like a whole spin-off TV show.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the first one.
I've
so
never seen the entirety of the first one.
All right. I haven't given you an animated movie in a really long time. Have I even given you one? Should I have given you Sing? Yeah, we'll stick with How to Train Your Dragon.
What was Sting?
Sing.
Ew. No, I don't want to listen.
Sing is so cute.
Sorry, I haven't seen Sing either. But no.
Yeah.
I would, for what I'm assigning you, I think this is gonna be perfect. How to Train Your Dragon and Warriors of Virtue.
Yeah.
I think that's
a good pair.
That is a good pair, a good order. That's nailed it.
All right.
With that coupling.
Okay.
All right. See you next time. We're going to be watching How to Train Your Dragon and Warriors of Virtue. We'll see you then. Have a great week. Enjoy Zelda or Disney Dreamlight Valley if you're playing those, and pick them up if they sound interesting as well. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.